Boker Tov. Today's Daf is Daf Kuf Beis in Yevmot, Daf Kuf Beis, and we learned for a Refuah Shlem Yosef Asriel ben Chaim Michan and Eloz ben Ruma. We also learned Le'ilu Nishmas, our good friend Josh Miller, Yoshua David ben Moshe Tuvyo, whose 7th yard site is today. From the we left off yesterday, we had just talked about that a ger can judge a fellow ger even for dinei nefashos, whereas he can't judge a regular Jew, but he could judge his fellow ger. If his mother was Jewish, then he can even judge other Jews also, because then, like Avram said yesterday, he's a regular Jew. However, for Chalitza, we said, because it says B'Yisrael, he has to have both parents in order to be a judge. For Chalitza, we said you need 2 people, Min Torah, and plus a third, so you should have an odd number. So you really need 3 people, Min Torah, for Chalitza. Therefore, we'll see by other things, we learn in Sanhedrin, sometimes a Yochid Mimcha is good enough, but for Chalitza, you need 3. And therefore, you need 3 proper judges, meaning full Jews. Amarabba, we're about the 7th line.
Is a mamzer better or worse than a ger in this case?
A mamzer would be, a mamzer is fine. Mamzer's fine, yeah. Mamzer's Tam Chacham. You just get a mamzer's whole problem is who he could marry, but he could be a Tam Chacham. He could be, he could be a. Now you might say that in order to be on the Sanhedrin, we saw you have to have kulach yafav rayasi. You can't have any mum. That's probably a physical blemish, but this is a spiritual blemish. It's a good question. Could you have a mamzer on the Sanhedrin? Why not? There's no physical blemish, so what? I think many people have left court saying that judge. Never mind. That was, I couldn't, it just slipped out. Amarabba. Amarav Kana, Amarav. And we learned yesterday, we talked about the mitzvah chalitza. You do it with a shoe. And we said, if you do it with a kind of or you do it with a sandal, even alpilia is a kind of a sock. So we said a sock is no good, right? That's not really a shoe. It's got to be a shoe, a sandal or a shoe. Now we're going to talk about sandals and shoes, and let's see what the Gemara says. If Eliyahu would come and tell us that you could use a shoe, we would listen to him. What is that, mashma? That right now we don't use shoes. He says, Shamalo. If he says ein chotz sandal, if he says we don't use a sandal, that's no good. A sandal, ein shamalo, we wouldn't listen to him because a sandal is definitely the preferred way, as we'll see. It's better to use a sandal than a shoe, according to our Gemara. Shekfar nogo on the side, because everybody uses a sandal. We all use sandals. So if Eliyahu would tell us don't use sandals, we wouldn't accept that. Rav Yosef Amarav Kana, he says it differently. Amarav, he says, if he would say not to use a shoe, Shomelo, we would listen to him. It's mashma that we do use a shoe now, but if he tells us not to, we wouldn't. Ein chotz b'sandal, ein shomelo. If he says don't use a sandal, we wouldn't listen to shekvar noagam b'sandal. So that part is the same. There's Rav Kana Marav definitely said the second part, that if Eliyahu would say don't use a sandal, we wouldn't listen to him because everybody uses a sandal. The question is, they had a difference of opinion about what he would say. What would we do if he would say use a shoe, a regular shoe? So the first one said if he would say use a shoe, we would listen to him. It's mashma, we don't use a shoe now. The other one, the second opinion was if Eliyahu would tell us not to use a shoe, okay, we would listen to him. It's mashma, we do use a shoe. What's the difference between them? As we said, minal lechatchila. We're to use a middle right now. Lechatchila, to use a shoe or not? The one who said if Eliyahu would come and tell us that we should use a shoe, okay, we'd listen to him. It's mashma, we don't use a shoe now. But the Evid maybe, but we don't use a shoe now. The one who says if he would tell us not to use a shoe, we would listen to him. It's mashma, we do use shoes now. The one who says that you could use a shoe now, because he says if Eliyahu would come and tell us not to, so we would stop. Smashma, now we do. The one who says you could, how could you say the use a shoe? But man, cholza b'minol chalitzasik shera. Our Mishnah says mitzvah chalitza v'shlosha dayanim. Afil just nedyados. Cholza b'minol. If you use the shoe, all right, it's okay. Chalitzasik shera. It's mashma. B'diavad, it's okay, but the not. Right? So it says l'chilava cholza b'minol chalitzasik shera. The evidence l'chilava. No. The truth is, even l'chilava you could use a shoe. The boy Mr. Sefer, since the end, afterwards it said the second phrase, if you use a sock, chalitzas psula, We'll see why that field even the it's no good because it's got to be a shoe. Tananami Reisha, the Reisha also said di'evet. The Torah also, so therefore the Reisha also said sounds b'di'evet, but really lechatchila you could. So we have a difference of opinion. What can you use a shoe or a sandal lechatchila, or you should use a sandal, but b'di'evet if you use the shoe it's okay. The lechatchila, let's know it's actually machlokes tanam. Can you use a shoe lechatchila? Okay, the Tanya Amar of Yossi. Now I'm going to explain something. Rashi says, but let's see it in the story. Yossi says, when I went to this town in Stephen, and I found an elderly Jew there. Martilo, Kuma Tabaki Rav Yehuda ben Seira. Maybe do you know Rav Yehuda ben Seira over there in that town? Hey, of course. He's always at my table. Of course I know Rav Yehuda ben Seira. Did you ever see that he performed chalitza? Then others that he was not that he did the chalitza, but did he supervise it? I saw many times that he did it. Okay, so he says, okay, good, that's good. So now you can give me some eyewitness testimony. The middle of a sandal, did he use a shoe or a sandal? Amrli, did he use a shoe? Is that okay? Now you see the words in parentheses about Torah, Amr, Nala, V'lo, Minal. Rashi rejects that because Rashi says very clearly a Na'al and a Minal is the same thing, except the Torah says Na'al. Minal is the common usage. We use the word in Hebrew. Not in fact, in modern Hebrew, use na'alayim, but the rabbis use the word the na'al is lashon Torah and minal is lashon chacham. The chacham use lashon minal. That's the same thing. So it's not like the Torah said now how could you use a minal. That's not the reason. The reason is do you use a shoe at all? Because there's problems with shoes. Sandals are better, as we'll see. He says v'chi cholz minal. Amartila came ma'rov Rav Meir loma chalitza minal chalitza sikshira. What do you mean? Do you use it? Why? If you don't use the shoe at all, because then as he said to him, apparently that the eyewitness over here told Rav Yehuda that not that he saw Rav Yehuda ben Seira. The eyewitness to this story said, I saw him perform many times chalitz. He says, well, was it with a shoe or a sandal? And he says, who uses a shoe? It's mashma that the preferable way was to use a sandal. But he says if a shoe is no good, why would Rav Meir say that if you did it with a shoe, it's okay? Okay, but that's mashma all b'di'evet, right? Because he says, do you use a shoe? He says, well, Rav Meir said you can use a shoe. It's mashma b'di'evet. Rav Yaakov says the name of Rav Meir, cholzim bin l'chadchila. L'chadchila you could use a shoe, not just b'di'evet. Okay, so we have machlokas can use a shoe l'chadchila or b'di'evet. Umandom l'chadchila lo my timer. The one who says l'chadchila you shouldn't do it. What's the reason why you shouldn't do it? I think that noise is disturbing. Is the door open or is it just the window? Just close the windows. There's nothing we could do. It sounds like a party's going on out there. So Yaakov Mishmo Cholz in the middle l'chadchila. He says you could do Umandam l'chadchila my timer. The one who says l'chadchila you could do. What's his reasoning? L'chadchila lo rather. In other words, we have machlokas. Definitely you should use sandals, right? But the question is, can you use minnow shoes l'chadchila or only b'di'evet? It's okay. So we have this machlokas. But what's the reason why shoes shouldn't be good? L'chadchila lo my timer. The one who says you shouldn't use shoes l'chadchila. What's the reason why? Ilay mishum davi panta me'al. There's a pasuk says v'cholza nalo me'al raglo. Right. That's what he says. They came to the rabbis and she said he doesn't want to be mi'avni. And they called him in, they spoke to him, and he says, no, he doesn't want to. And it says, V'cholza nalo me'al raglo. So what's the reason why he says you shouldn't use a shoe? Ilema, thank you very much. Because the upper part of the shoe, that's like me'al raglo, that's the upper part. And then the shoe straps, the strings, right? The shoe strings, that's me'al me'al. In other words, it says you should remove the shoe. She should remove the shoe from his foot. So me'al raglo means from his foot, not me'al me'al, not from a second level higher, because the top of the shoe, a shoe has a top to it, like a lip, and it's it's got the sides, and it's got the what do you call that? The lip, where the tongue, let's say, right? The tongue rather, so the lip tongue, right? The tongue. So maybe the tongue is like the pants is like the tongue. So that's from on top of his foot, and the strings are on top of that. So therefore, it's not me'al raglo, but it's from above. It's from above and above. That's too good. Me'al, like a second level up. Torah me'al. Torah said take it off his shoe, not from above his shoe. If that would be the reason, because it doesn't fit into the pasuk, shouldn't be good at all. We're saying you should use you should use sandals. If you use a shoe, okay. According to this, Manu number says no, even l'chadchila you can. Rabbi Yaakov said you could do it even l'chadchila. But the one who says it's not good, it's only good b'di'evet. Why shouldn't you do it? If it's a problem of me'al below me'al to me'al, because the shoestrings are above the tongue, which is above his foot, and that doesn't fit into the pasuk, so it shouldn't be good b'di'evet at all. The answer is no. Gzeir mishum minal mavrufet. It's talking about the gzeiros because he might have a torn shoe. Meaning this, it's got to be a shoe that holds his foot. If the shoe is so torn that it doesn't really hold his foot, that's no good. Inami mishum chatzim minal, half a shoe. In other words, if buy a sandal when a sandal is so torn or broken, it's harder. It's broken, you can't wear it. But a shoe sometimes you can wear even if it's ripped up. You can still put it, and that's not a good shoe. It's got to be a shoe. It's not a torn shoe or not a half a shoe. And that's why you don't do it. That's why the chachil you shouldn't. But if you did, it's okay. Amarav, ilav the chamisi l'chabib. If it had not been that I had seen my uncle, that's his uncle's Rav Chia, the cholos besandal, this Shinson that he did chalitza with a sandal that has straps on it. Right? And if I wouldn't, I saw him. I would have only used an Arabian sandal, the maharik which fits very tight. But I saw that to him, the key was making sure that you have a sandal that has straps. Heidi done ours, Afagav, this bay, Hummus, it's got like a knot. Their kind of sandal, obviously sandals today could be different, but the sandals they had a knot on it, which held the foot in place. If it wouldn't be that I saw this, Afagav, this, even though it's got this knot, Katrina and Bay Mister, we still tie other straps around it, so that it should be a proper chalitza. Meaning, the pasuk says that she should take his shoe off. Taking the shoe off involves untying the shoe and removing it from his foot. It says v'cholza nalo me'al raglo. What does cholza imply? Removing it. Moving a shoe means untying it. That's the proper way to do it, to untie it and remove it. So it's got to have straps. You got to untie it and remove it. But again, we have machlok. So the preferable thing is to use sandals. Sandals will never be problems because it's got straps. You untie it and you remove the shoe. You remove it from his foot. If it's got, that's preferable. You could use a regular shoe, but the problem with the regular shoe is that sometimes it's torn and you wear it anyway, and it doesn't really hold his foot, and then it wouldn't be a proper chalitza. So let's recall that he gives her chalitza, right? But he gives her chalitza by her removing his shoe and doing the spinning. She's the one who does the action, but that's called him giving her chalitza. This will be important in a few minutes. Amrav Yudam Marav. Hataras Yivama, by the way, my daughter brought up the question yesterday that, we said yesterday, the Divrei love. Remember, doesn't that mean it's two more people? No, Divrei love means they give him advice, they give him counsel, right? That if he's 20 and she's 80 or vice versa, you say, what are you looking for trouble? What are you looking for quarrels? Better avoid it. But aren't they coming for chalitza already when that happened? In other words, why would they're discouraging it? The rabbis seem to be discouraging him from Yibum when they're coming for chalitza, like they don't need any help here. It's like, it's like a couple coming for a divorce and saying, you should get divorced, And of course they're coming to get divorced. What do they need the counseling for? So it's a good point, I think, but I think you have to say that if you look at the psukim, pasuk Zayin and Perek it says, if he doesn't want to, so she should go to the skein and Balsivim to Ashara, and she should say, look, he doesn't want to perform Yibam. But Carlos Zikni, then they call him in the Dibruway love, and then they speak to him. And he still says he doesn't want to. In other words, he didn't come. It wasn't like the couple came for divorce. She complains, says, look, he doesn't want to be me. So she went to the court. So they called him in. They said, look, you don't want to do Yibam, you should form me. Oh, well, let's understand the situation. Maybe it's not matim. Then they will encourage the chalitza. Because otherwise, she has a good point. If they're coming for chalitza, what do you have to advise them to do chalitza for? Right? The answer is she came for the chalitza. And then the first reaction is, well, let's see, maybe you should perform Yibam. That's the preferable thing. In those days, when Yibam was done l'shem shemayim, then the choice was to do the Yibam. That's the preferable mitzvah. But if they saw that the couple didn't match, that they were better off doing chalitza, then the rabbis advised them accordingly. Amar Rabbi Rav. He says, listen, just removing of the foot, moving of most of the heel of the foot is considered, it's good enough. As soon as she's removed, as soon as she is exposed, the heel of his foot, that's good enough. The Hatar Dom Shuk, She's mutter as soon as, when is the chalitza completed? It's completed as soon as the most of the heel of the foot has been removed from the shoe. Meisvei, putruatzuas min al basanda. Let's say the straps became untied. Sometimes he was walking and the straps became untied. She didn't untie them. They become untied, or he untied them. Oh, Shishamat Rov Arago, or he removed most of his foot from there chalitza. Suppose it's not a chalitza. She has to do the action. Time of the Shamar, the reason why it's not good is because he did it. But if she did it, chalitza sikshera, it's kosher. Rov Arago, it says only most of the foot. Rov Arago and Rov Arago, only most of the foot, not most of the heel. Right, so more says low. Hainu Rov Arago, Hainu Rov Arago. Most of the heel means is the same as Rov Arago. If most of the heel of the foot has been exposed, that's considered like most of the foot. The my korla rubber, I called rubber rego. The kula chayla the karo aledach is because all the weight of the foot rests on the heel. In other words, if she removed his shoe so that most of his heel is exposed, that's already considered a proper chalitza, and that's what we mean by rov harego. This idea though that you have to untie the shoe, because we said if the shoes became untied on their own, or he did it, that's not chalitza. She has to untie it and remove it. Whether he untied the shoe and she removed the shoe, or whether she untied it and he removed it, she has to both untie the shoe and remove it from his foot. So do you need both actions? Karasomao. What happens if she didn't untie it? She just ripped it off. Right? She ripped open the shoe. Is that considered good enough? Or sarfasomau, she burned the shoe. She took a hot coal and threw it on the shoe. Sometimes they get the, tempers flare. When it's on split, she burned it off. A hot foot, yeah. So she tore it off, or she burned it off. Now, isn't enough? She exposed his foot. That's what she did. Is that good enough? And you have to remove it. But like you don't have to take. He's not sure. Because he exposed the foot, but she didn't really move it. We're not sure, is that good enough? She did expose the foot. He asked another question. What happens if a guy was wearing two shoes, one on top of another? You have that, the winter, you put boots on top of boots. You have that in some cases. What's the case? She removed the top shoe, and the inner shoe is still there. So that's me'al de'me'al. You're supposed to remove the shoe from his foot. Here you remove the shoe from the other shoe, right? Which is on top of you move the shoe from the other shoe, which is on top of his foot. So that's no good. So let's read it. Because she tore the top one, the shafasad soy. She tore off the top one and she removed the inner one, the bottom one, the koyaloy, but the upper one's still there. She ripped open the top one, left it there, and then removed the inner one from his foot. My chalitza bina, because she did remove a shoe. Or you need both exposing the foot. In other words, you need her to untie it. That's what we said. You need to untie it and you need to remove the shoe. But when you say removing the shoe, is it enough just to expose his foot, which would have been good enough by burning it off or ripping it off? We're not sure about that. Or what about here, where you say that she took off the shoe, but she didn't expose his foot? So that's a question over here that's also raised. Maybe you need both things. In other words, you need for sure untying and removing. But does removing mean exposing the foot, or does you literally have to or do you literally have to remove the shoe? So you could ask the question both ways. What happens if you remove the shoe over here, but you didn't expose the foot? So that's the question. Pardon? Oh, very good. So the sock. That's exactly the question. Is he wearing socks underneath? And says the Gemara, Umi kahai gav. The Gemara says, is there such a thing? Can you remove the shoe? Can you remove the bottom shoe? And can you wear two shoes and remove the inner one? Not the Umi kahai gav. Says ain. The Chazal Rabban Rav Yehuda the Nafik b'chamisha zuze or zuge muke l'shuka. The rabbi saw Rav Yehuda went out with five pairs of shoes, one on top of another to the shuk. Zuge, right? He says, are pairs of shoes. Muki here, Rashi says they're hard. Later on, Rashi says that my muk, it's like a hard felt. It's like a sock. It's a hard felt. You can wear one on top of the other. So it is possible to remove the shoe and still have the foot unexposed, have the foot non-exposed. That's the question that's raised over here. I'm Rabbi and Rav. So we don't really answer that. We said you need both untying and removing the shoe. But we said, what happens if she tore it off, right? She didn't actually remove it, she tore it off or burnt it off. Or what happens if you remove the shoe, but she didn't expose the foot? Those questions don't seem to be answered yet. Let's say a Yavama grew up among her brothers. Now that's very common. You have, let's say, a young girl, 14, 15 years old, got married to her husband. Her husband died 5, 10 years later with no children, but she was in the family, right? So she spent much time, Shabbosim, Yantif, they spent a lot of time together in her family. And so this is Yavama. She grew up among the brothers, among her potential Yavamas. She can get married one of them. Maybe it happened over the period of time that they lived together. He said, oh, do me a favor, honey, could you remove my shoe one day, maybe? One day during their lifetime, maybe they remove the shoe, even though you could say the husband wasn't dead yet, right? But let's say he died, and she was young, and she was too young to perform even yet. Maybe she was 8 or 10, and they waited, right? They waited till she was bat mitzvah, and during that time, maybe she removed the shoe just incidentally. You mind taking off my shoes? My feet are killing me, So maybe that happened one time. So if the husband wasn't dead yet, so obviously that doesn't mean anything. It's like giving a get to a woman. Probably the husband died, and she was in the house, and is she allowed to marry one of the brothers, or are you concerned? Maybe she removed her shoe one time. You're not concerned about that. My time, what's a man time? So the Gemara says, you're not worried about it. You're not concerned. You don't suspect, well, maybe she removed the shoe one time. And if she removed the shoe one time, and if she did a chalitza, you can't marry any of the brothers. If she performed chalitza on any of the brothers, all the brothers are now forbidden to marry her. So he says, you're not worried about that. We're not concerned. Maybe she removed the shoe. So the Gemara says, time because we didn't see it, but if we saw that she did remove a shoe, sometime during that time she did take off his shoes. One of the brothers, she took off his shoes. You are concerned, whether he had kavanah, whether he had intention for the chalitza and she did not, or or she had kavanah, he did not. They both have to have kavanah for the chalitza to take place. So how do you say even if you saw them, they weren't concerned about the chalitza then? Right? I just got to say, they both have to even though we saw her once remove a shoe, she was a kid in the house. They said, "Could you take off my shoe?" Even when we saw it, if you're not concerned, maybe I had kavanah for it because it was just incidental. You're not concerned about it, and therefore she could marry the brothers. Some say no. We're not concerned about it. She grew up in the house. Hey, should we be concerned that maybe she took off one of the brothers' shoes one time? No, we're not concerned about that because we didn't see it. But if you did see it, you are concerned about it. Uda katana boy kavana. What about the fact you need kavana? And they probably didn't have kavana here. That's the matter to marry somebody in the shuk. But to the brothers, it's possible if there was no kavana, if you saw that she did take off one of the brothers' shoes, she can never marry the brothers again. Rashi says somebody, Adam, somebody saw them do it. Whoever saw them do it. The economic Rashi says the economic in the third line, Ein bari time lo chazina, the cholza, chayshinan, dilman eskavnu, umifsalayo. So Rashi says, if you saw them, Rashi doesn't seem to say what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara says, because we didn't see him, but if you'd see him, you are, what about Kavana? All right, we're not worried. For Kavana, you need Kavana to marry somebody else, but to forbid them to marry the brothers, it's possible as long as you see you do the chazir. Rashi is not mashma, Rashi is mashma. But if you would see the chazat, you're concerned that Dilma niskavnu umifslan, she can't marry them anymore. Maybe at Kavana. So either way, it's mashma from Rashi though. You're concerned Dilma niskavnu umifslan, she's possible to them, but presumably to marry somebody in the shuk, she would need a proper chalitza again. But for the brothers, you puzzle right away because maybe at Kavana, maybe didn't have Kavana. Rashi says Chashin and Dilma niskavnu and Bavsalayo, but it's mashma from the Gemara. The way we read the Gemara, that if you saw her once remove the shoe, then she's supposed to the brothers even without kavanah. She's just a matzah to the shuk. Then you would need kavanah. But the on the brothers, it's mashma even without kavanah.
Question?
Yeah.
I understood that there were 3 sort of requirements for chalitza. One is the taking off of the shoe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The other is the spitting.
So we'll see about that if it's ma'akev.
And the third is the bedstead. with
Right.
three judges.
Right.
Here
So,
we only have one.
very good. So we'll talk about that. Is it ma'akiv or not? Right? Is it ma'akiv or not? So, ein achanami, you could say. So, one answer could be, even if you need all three, and I think the spit is not ma'akiv, the spit doesn't land, it's not ma'akiv. But where's the bezdin, right? Where's the bezdin? So maybe you're concerned. Maybe the three people acted as a bezdin, or two people did it, plus you had a third. Maybe there were two people there who saw it. Let's say three people saw it, so they could be the bezdin. There was no kavanah, but the asa were concerned about parents and brothers. So you could argue and say, oh, you need kavanah and you need a proper bezdin and the spitting and everything. That's the matter to marry the shuk. But to forbid her on the brothers, this is enough. That's what the Gemara seems to be saying. The forbid her on the brothers is good enough. According to the first law shown, no, that doesn't do anything. You're not concerned. The first thing is no, that doesn't mean anything. You're not worried that they had kavanah because it was just incidental. According to the second one, you are concerned enough to prohibit her on the brothers, but she wouldn't be able to marry somebody in the shuk until she had all the proper requirements. We'll see later on about the spit whether that's a requirement. But the bezdin you need, so you have to say that the concern is only if there were people. Or maybe to forbid her on the brothers, any chalitza is good enough. Just to mount the shuk, now you need a proper bezdin. Amamir Rav. Sandal hatafur bepishtan ein chosam. So we said before, you need a sandal or you need a shoe. It's got to be a leather sandal, leather shoe. Sandal is hard and it's got straps, and the shoe is soft leather and it's also got straps, and it's got the tongue and the lip and all the other requirements. Sandal hatafur bepishtan. Let's say it was sewed with a non-leather product like flax. Today you would say you sewed it with something synthetic. It says, Tachash. Bozik says, Hashem said, and I put you on, I shod you, I shod you, I put you on shoes of Tachash, seal skin. All right, but like with the covers of the Mishkan. So there it says, Analech, the lashon of Na'al, shoe means a shoe with leather. So maybe it's got to be sealskin. Maybe the only kind of shoe you could use in chalitza is sealskin, because you're saying using shoes is with sealskin. So it says no, now, it says many times now. I mentioned before that Rashi says now is a lashon in the Torah, minol is the lashon in the Chacham, even though it says Bar zeluna choshes min alecha uchyamecha v'decha. So doesn't that seem to be the word min al in the Torah, not now? The answer is that min al is like man'ul, like a lock. There it's not referring to shoes. When the Torah refers to shoes, it says na'al. When the Chum referred to shoes, they called it min al. So it's the same thing. So he says over here, maybe it says now riba, any kind of shoe, any kind of leather. It doesn't have to be. Tacha says sealskin. Now says any kind. So now riba feel called milinam. So maybe anything. Synthetic shoes are also good. Sneakers, whatever, plastic shoes, whatever they make shoes out from today, cotton, whatever. Feel called milinam. So what does tachash help for? In other words, the fact that it says tachash tells me it's sealskin, but it doesn't mean only sealskin because it says many things now. So now it tells you, okay, it's got to be a kind of a hide, but not any. Yeah.
It's narwhal, not seal.
It's what?
Narwhal, the unicorn.
Kind of an animal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What? How you'll send us the spelling on that, so we'll know how to spell it. But the simple translation is that it's a kind of a. It says maybe it's a kind of a seal. I don't know. Is it in the seal family, Mickey?
It's possible, but
Oh, okay. All right. It's a kind of an animal. So so therefore, Tachash tells you it's got to be a skin. It's got to be a hide, even though that literally is whatever you call that, marwal or whatever. Pardon? Narwhal, a narwhal skin, but in the seal family, but it does not dafka seals, but it's also any kind of leather. Let's say, okay, it's made out of leather, but the straps or the strap holes are made out of goat hair. What would you say there? So the straps are made out of goat hair. Isn't that still called? I put you on shoes of leather shoes. It's still called shoes. In other words, you have leather shoes, but the straps aren't necessarily leather. That's still called a leather shoe. So that should be okay. So maybe if the whole thing's made out made out of goat hair, it's also okay. So now, how karka mikre? That's already called like a slipper. In other words, if the whole shoe is made out of hair, whatever, then it's definitely it's a slipper. It's not a shoe. Wait a minute. Let's go back to the pasuk itself. It says b'cholza nala me'aga. How do you know cholza means removal? My chilutz means removal, right? Right. We say that means, what do they say? The ambulances and the fire, rescue. They call that chilutz, right? So chilutz means removal, but it also it has another meaning too. It means to arm or strength. How do you know it means removing? How do you know she's supposed to take off the shoe? How do we know it means removing the shoe? Like it says, but when the house has leprosy, you remove the stones. That have the plague. Maybe it means strengthening. You should arm people from you, be megayes them, and you get them into the army and arm them, make them strong. Maybe it means strengthen them, arm them for the army. So maybe that's what the chalitza means. Maybe it means putting the shoe on. She doesn't, she should sit there and put his shoe on. Maybe that's what chalitza is. Now that also means removal. Means take him out of the house and put him in the army, put him at the front, right? Says like Krava, put him in for fighting. That a poor person is girded in his affliction, meaning he has a very strong affliction over here. So here you see also chalitza or yechlotz. It means to arm or to strengthen in that facet of his life. The answer is no. It means b'schar in reward for his affliction. Yecholzu meidina shel Gehenim. He'll be saved, or he'll be removed from the laws of Gehenim, and from the punishment of Gehenim. So here again, we're trying to explain that even to every time it's yecholetz, it doesn't mean to strengthen, but it means to remove. So chalitza means removing the shoe. A lot of siv, it says chonamal Hashem saviv librei Hashem, a messenger of God encamps around those who fear God by yechaltzein, and he will strengthen them. Right? He'll save them. He'll strengthen them. Yechaltzein, and it means he'll strengthen them. Yes, I guess b'schar yireab, and the schar that those who fear God, reward for fearing God. It also means they will be removed from the din of Gehenna. The same ideas we said by the Ani, be removed from the punishment of Gehenna. So again, you could always say that chalitza means removal. A lot of sivatz mosecha yachlitz. Hashem will strengthen your bones. That's the greatest, one of the greatest brachas. Hashem will strengthen you, will make your bones very firm. So chalitza can mean to strengthen, to put on, to add on, not to remove. Rabbi also says it means strengthening the bones. It says, Ain, mashmach, you're right. The word chalitza can mean removal, and it could also mean to strengthen, to arm. Right? Right? But over here in our case, it definitely means removal of the shoe. These like that, it means putting on the shoe, strengthening him. She should put the shoe on his foot, right? Strengthen his foot by putting on a shoe. So you can't say that. We learned that you can't have a chalitza on an amputee where it's above his knee. But let's say it's down by the calf, then you could. So if you would say baraglo, I would think that let's say he's missing part of his foot from the ankle below, can't do chalitza on his calf. Maybe you can't do that. So I can't say baraglo. So kasar rachmana, it's a kasar rachmana me'al raglo. So it says me'al raglo to tell you that filu b'shuko, you could even do chalitza on his calf. So zimkain lech rachmana, if that's the purpose, and it still means to put the shoe on, b'me'al raglo, put the shoe on above his foot, above the bottom part of his foot, above the ankle, put the shoe on there. It should say you should put the shoe b'cholza nalo b'me'al raglo. You could put the shoe on either on his regel or even above his regel by at the calf point. My me'al raglo. What is my me'al raglo? Means removal, because it says v'cholza nalo. She should take off his shoe. Me'al raglo. Me'al raglo means take it off from his foot. If you wanted to say it means even above his ankles, you say b'me'al. If it means putting it on, you say v'cholza nalo b'me'al raglo. V'cholza nalo me'al raglo means the shoe comes off the foot. Otherwise, it wouldn't say. It should say b'cholzanalo al raglo or bimei al raglo. Mei al raglo means from his foot. So you're right. Chalitza can mean strengthening. What do we say? Ritzei b'chalitzeinu. What do we mean there, right? It means strengthen us, gird us, right? Isn't that what it means there? Ritzei b'chalitzeinu, strengthen us. It doesn't say take Shabbos away from us, right? Yom Shabbos is there. So you could say many times. You say chalitza can mean strengthening, arming, girding us, or it could mean removal. In this case, it means removal because that's the mashmalos of the pasuk me'al raglo. Amalei ahu mina or remuil. Bill says, you know what? Remuil. You are a nation. You Jews are a nation whose master has given you chalitza. He doesn't want you in the so pasuk is b'tzonim karm yalchu. They'll go with their karbanos, with their flocks and your cattle. They'll go levakesh es Hashem, they'll go to serve God. Below lo yimatzu, and they won't find him. Chalatz man did chalitza from them. Amar lei, so he said to him, Shota miksiv chalatz. Did he say give chalitza? When a man gives the wife or gives the yavama chalitza, she removes his shoe and she spits, right? But he's giving her chalitza. So it doesn't say that God gave the Jewish people chalitza. It says he got chalitza from them, meaning the Jews rejected God. Not that God rejected them. They rejected him. Now they got to do tshuva. Does it say he gave them chalitza, like a man giving a yavama chalitza? Chalatz mehem ksiv. Bilu yavama, the equivalent, bilu yavama, the choltzu mina is Rashi's girsa. The choltzu mina acha and midi mishashes beit. If a woman gave the husband chalitza, meaning he did chalitza on her. She gave him chalitza, she even chalitza on him would be the good. Remember, what do we say normally? A man gives his wife chalitza, man gives the yavama chalitza if he doesn't want to marry her. What does him giving her chalitza entail? Her removing his shoe, right, and spitting. So if let's say it was the other way around, she gave him chalitza, how? By him removing her shoe, right, and spitting. So does that mean anything? Again, yavama, the choltz mina achim, that the brothers gave her chalitza, that means the choltz mina achim, that she gave them chalitza by them removing her shoe. Would that mean anything? There's no such thing as a woman giving the husband chalitza, giving the man chalitza. It's him giving her. So again, it doesn't say that God rejected us. God gave us chalitza. It says God was rejected by us. God was rejected by us. So that's not chalitza. Chalitza is when the man rejects the woman. Over here, God didn't reject us. God was rejected by us. So he said in the Mishnah, a sock is not a shoe. We said you can use a sandal, you can use a shoe, it's got to have straps, got to untie it, got to remove it, got to expose the foot. But what happens is a sock? A sock is not a shoe. But maybe you say that a sock is not a shoe, but we learned also, remember we learned that they take the Trumas Lishka, that the person goes in to takes the money. Remember the money's in the Lishkas for the karbanos. So the guy who goes in to remove the money should not go in with a shirt that has a rim on it, that has like not a collar, that's folded around where you can hide money inside. It's got like a rim on it, like a big pocket. Certainly not with pockets, but even a shirt that has trimming on it that you can hide things in there, and not with a sock because he might hide food. And he's got to go in clean. So it's very clear that there's no place to hide any money, and you shouldn't wear a sock, right? Ain't sarach lomer b'middle. Certainly you shouldn't go in with shoes or sandals. Nobody wears shoes in the Azara. So, but what do you see over here? That on Palia, you shouldn't wear a sock because you might hide the money. You shouldn't, certainly not shoes. Shoes you can't wear at all. But you see that an Ampalia is not a shoe because he says you shouldn't wear Ampalia, and certainly you shouldn't wear shoes. Okay, so we have a confirmation that an Ampalia is not a shoe for a middle. What are you talking about? You tell them on Yom Kippur you shouldn't wear shoes and you shouldn't wear Ampalia. Why not socks? Not from house to house, even from one bed to another. You shouldn't wear shoes at all, and you shouldn't wear these socks. Why can't you wear socks on Yom Kippur? If it's only a sock, why can't you wear it on Kippur? I'm Rabbiya. The Isbek Sisi, you know why? We're talking about a sock that's got pads in it. So if it's got pads in it, then it's what? Mishum Tani, because now you're enjoying yourself. In other words, the Torah doesn't say not to wear shoes. It says you shouldn't have tanug, right? So you shouldn't have enjoyment. So it's got if you have pads in the socks, then it's you're going to have enjoyment. That's the Yisra in Yom Kippur. not because it's a shoe, but rather you're going to have enjoyment. Is it also to wear a tonic if you don't wear shoes on Yom Kippur? It's also to have tonic without, if it's not a shoe, and we all wear sneakers or Crocs or whatever. We're enjoying our feet. At least we're not getting on the rocks on the floor and not getting hot and cold. Of course, that also. Rav Huna, Karl Sudrak, he would wrap his foot in like a cloth or whatever, a handkerchief or a sock, and went out. You could certainly. There's no issue to wear socks or cloth on Yom Kippur. Here's what we're talking about. If it's made out of leather, if you have a leather sock, then you shouldn't wear it on Yom Kippur. You're not supposed to wear leather. That's right. You're not supposed to wear leather on Yom Kippur. That's true. When we say that you can't use it as for a chalitza, then we're talking about one made out of beged, made out of regular cloth. If you don't say that, then it depends on whether it's made out of leather or not. Kashim Kippur or Yom Kippur, you have a steer on Yom Kippur. Why did Tanya? So on Yom Kippur, you shouldn't wear slippers. But you could wear anpilin b'toch beso. But we said before, you can't wear. You said before that what on Yom Kippur, you shouldn't wear them. What do we say? You shouldn't wear. One place we say you shouldn't wear anpilya on Yom Kippur. One says you could wear anpilya on your house on Yom Kippur. If it's made out of beged, you could wear it on Yom Kippur. If it's made out of leather, you can't wear it on Yom Kippur. But either way, it's not a good enough shoe for chalitza, presumably, right? Because it doesn't have straps, etc. Shema mina. Tanya said Rav, it's a proof. We have a raya like Rav. Also, there's a difference between a sock that's made out of leather or not, as we'll see now. Because maybe until now you say maybe you could use. We said you can't use it on pilya, right? You can't use a sock. Okay, and we said as a proof you can't wear a sock into the base of Mikdash either because you'll hide your money. So it's a sock. The other hand, we said sounds like a shoe. So we said no, it depends. If the ampilya is made out of leather, then it is a shoe, and you can't wear it on Kippur. It's made out of beged, then you could. Okay, what about our case here? So he says here we'll see. Tanya said Rava that there's a difference between two. If let's say she did the chalitza. She removed the shoe. Again, he's performing chalitza, but she removes the shoe. And if it's ripped up, a torn shoe, but it's not so much torn that it doesn't cover his foot. It covers most of his foot. That's okay. The sandal nifis, or with a damaged sandal, but most of the foot fits into the sandal. That's okay. The sandal sham, it's made out of another material. What's sham? Sham is like excuse me, what? No, not cloth. No, it's made. It's from a cork, Vishal sieve, or sieve is bast or tree fibers. If it's made out of those things, bekavakitea, the prosthetic foot of a amputee. The moke we said before is like a hard felt. The smichas raglayim. Or with the smichas, those are the foot supports. The foot supports. If a person's walking on his hands, he can't walk on his feet. His feet are amputated. He's walking on his knees, like so to speak. Right? He's pushing himself ahead with his hands, so his hands have like gloves on them. Like these supports. Smichas so shel or umachtas stuff. He puts his hand in there. Banpilya shel or. It says here if it's a sock made out of leather, if you get chalitza from an adult, they know whether he's standing, sitting, or leaning over, or from a blind person. All these cases, it's okay as long as it's a shoe that covers his foot, even if it's made out of cork, which is also, I guess, some natural material, or if you did with the stump of the prosthetic foot of a kitea, or even felt, it's leather. And some sort of smichas around. Also, as long as it's made out of leather, even a or even a sock made out of leather, that's okay. But let's say a torn shoe that doesn't cover most of his foot, or or a damaged sandal, the whole foot doesn't fit in there. Or not with the smichas of the raglayim. In other words, Rashi said for guys pushing his hands he's walking with his hands. He's like on the floor. And he drags his feet. So if he has a support for the feet, he covers his feet like he's just got stumps there. He covers his feet, but it's a shoe. because it's a shoe of some sort, right? It's not a regular shoe, not a size 14 or a size 12 or 9, but it covers his foot. If you get chalitza with that support for his foot that he covers his foot with, that's okay. But if you use the support that I said before, the gloves that he puts on his hand, that's no good. Or socks made out of cloth, you got chalitza from a child, that's all possible. So you see here, the point is to prove, we saw other things here too. If you use anything that fits over the foot, if it's made out of leather or natural material like that, that's okay. However, if it's made out of beged, so here we see the difference between anpilya here. This Bryce says an anpilya, a sock made out of leather is good. That's like a shoe. Anpilya made out of beged cloth is not good. That's possible. All right, tomorrow's daf will begin from here Kafa Kiteya, talking about the prosthetic foot of an amputee, and we'll pick it up on Sunday from the top of Kuf Daled, where the Mishnah starts. There's 6-7 lines down on the page. Have a good Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos, relax.
Holes in the bottom of it, even though you still wear them. Sandals that have
Yeah,
holes in the bottom,
yeah, then
worn
you-
out.
Yeah, they're worn out, but if they cover most of the foot and your foot doesn't fall out of them, then it's okay.
And sandals of the Romans, it was just a piece of leather.
Yeah,
And it had
straps all over.
wrapped
Correct.
around.
That's right. These leather,
Those are real shoes.
those are, yeah, but
They had
the
shoes
advantage, what
like
he's saying,
boots.
so that's what the Gemara said. That's why that's the preferable one. Why? Because if that's broken, you couldn't wear it anymore. And so you knew that it was on his foot, and with all the straps, you were Yosef both. She untied it and she removed it.